Good morning, this is Brandy.
Hey, good morning, it's Lance. I made it.
Oh, good.
Hi, Brandy. It's Gary here.
Good morning.
Morning.
All right, I think, well, Annette says she's going to be 5 minutes late, which she said is pretty good for her.
That's recorded.
Are any of you connected to the YouTube stream online?
No, I'm not. Is there like an address or
Yeah, I sent an email to you this morning with the link.
Oh, okay. Let me look for that.
I have it up, but I don't see anything.
Me too.
No, because you're going to be
I
here.
actually see people snowshoeing.
Let me see. If we go to the channel, you might just want to refresh your screen and see if it pops up as the live video. If not, you can click on the videos tab and it'll be right the first video.
I think the only thing I got is the email with the phone number. I don't see a YouTube email.
I'll resend it to you.
Oh, you know what? I might have gone to Yeah, I don't have it.
All right, I just resent it to you.
Let's see.
If you click at if you're at the department's homepage, you can click, there's a list that says home, video, playlist, channels. If you click on videos, it's the number one video. No, no, it just means we're broadcasting live and we're the only ones broadcasting live at CDPHE now. And Eric will not be joining us on the phone this morning. He just emailed me.
You haven't heard from Gabby?
Mm-mm.
So who do we got on the phone?
So who all do we have on the phone?
Lance Winhole.
Gary Marshall.
Chris Harris.
All right, I found it.
Shelley's not on.
Shelley was on.
Let me.
Shelley, are you on the phone?
She's not. She just emailed or messaged me. I can get her the number.
How many does it take for a quorum?
I was just wondering.
Brandy, how many does it take for a quorum?
6.
6? All right. We have it. Six voting members?
We do have 6 voting members.
Yep.
Because there's 3 on the phone.
Well, that's
We didn't get Shelley back.
Calling in.
But don't you have the other 4, Gary, Eric, Lance?
No, that's fine. No, Eric.
Eric's not coming today.
Getting last minute email.
They just left the room.
All right, so if you want to just make sure your microphone's on green when you talk.
All right, should we get started?
Get started whenever you'd like.
All right, let's call this meeting to order. How's everybody doing this morning?
Good.
Good. All right, looks like we got pretty light agenda today, so we'll see how quick we can get through it. Why don't we do introductions first, starting to my left with Ron, and we'll go around, do the phone, and then the audience.
Ron Falco, Safe Drinking Water Program Manager with the State Health Department.
Robbie Darcy, Town of Basalt Board Member.
And I'm Blair Corning with South Platte Water Renewal Partners.
Alan Coyne, Town Manager at Julesburg for one more day.
One more day.
Brandy Valdez Murphy, Administrator for the board.
All right, how about those on the phone again?
This is Lance Winholds, Metro Wastewater.
Gary Marshall, retired.
Chris Harris, Soldier Canyon.
All right, and then the audience.
Nancy Moran, with Water Quality Control Division.
Armando Harold, Water Quality Control Division. Chief Harper, Colorado Rural Water Association.
All right, thanks. Thanks for being here. Let's get on with the approval of the agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda as well? First off, has anybody got anything to add to the agenda?
I have no additions.
No additions? All right, can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, let's get started with the first item. Opportunity for public comment. It doesn't seem like there's too much public out there. Was there any public that wants to comment during public comment? Thought there might be some, but there's not.
Shelley, did you join the line?
I did. I'm a little late to the party, but yes, I am here.
You haven't missed anything, Shelley. Welcome.
I am online, Blair, so I have been listening.
Oh, all right, all right. Did you want to introduce yourself?
Shelley Stanley, City of Northland.
Thanks. All right, so with no public comment, let's move to the administrator's items. Approval of minutes of the March 26, 2019 meeting. Has everybody looked those over, and would anyone like to offer a motion to approve?
I'd make that motion.
I'll second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes from March 26, 2019 meeting. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And any abstain?
I abstain. I wasn't present. This is Shelley.
Okay, thanks. And I wasn't present either, so I don't know if I vote, but I abstain. All right. How about the tentative agenda for the May 28th meeting? It looks pretty on point. Anybody see anything they'd like to add for the May 28th meeting? All right, can I get a motion to approve the tentative agenda for our next meeting?
I don't think you need a motion.
Oh, I don't need a motion? Okay. Well, good, that's easy. Let's move to the division liaison report. We got about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 items, and we'll let Nancy take it away.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
So when I put together my liaison report, we did not have any enforcement actions. The division has put out 2 enforcement orders since I wrote this memo. I'll be able to give you details about that for your next meeting. But just FYI, there are 2 enforcement orders out there for failure to have a certified operator.
Okay.
Okay. So you guys should be somewhat familiar with the House Bill 161197 implementation. We are required to submit an annual status report. This status report essentially says we've met all the requirements of the legislation, and subsequent implementation reports will repeat that message. Do you have any questions? So this was on the agenda as a draft with an idea that the final version would be brought to you at the next meeting. If you would prefer, you can just approve this. I do not anticipate making any changes to it. So you could approve it, and then it doesn't need to come back next month.
All right, what's the board's pleasure for the status report on HB 161197 implementation? Want to approve that now, or you need another month to look it over?
I'd make the motion to approve.
I'll second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the status report. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, it is approved. Good work, Nancy.
Thank you. So the next item is the EPA annual report, the report from the board to EPA. This year, and I think this happened last year as well, EPA sent a template for us to use for this report. They appear to be intent on streamlining the report, so their template really kind of got to the main points. So this report reflects that kind of streamlined edition. And like the other report, this was submitted as a draft. And if you have any comments on it, or if you have any ideas for things that could be changed, we certainly have time and can do that. If not, like the other report, you could approve this. I do anticipate one very somewhat minor revision. There is a table somewhere in here. I know, I'm not at the right place. There's a table that I got actually additional data. And so I was able, if you scroll down, Brandy, I haven't figured that out yet, but keep going. It's pretty easy because it has really wide under enforcement. Oh, no, not that fast, Brandy. Maybe it's not under enforcement. Maybe I'm lying to you all. I really did look.
Appear to be a table under enforcement.
No. Okay, page 2. Sorry. So in the template, this table was given right there. That's the one. This table was given to us with the idea that for every row, there would be a compliance number and a compliance rate. But the way that Colorado collects its data, I can separate that 1823 into 2 numbers, one representing the community and the other representing the non-transient, non-community. And so it's just, that's the only place where I have some additional data, and I can just be a little bit more specific. That would be the only change I have for this report.
Still total the same.
Oh, yeah.
So are you looking to have us approve this today, or you?
Your call. Your call. If you want to see how those numbers break out, I can bring this back to you next month.
All right, what does everybody think on the board? Do we want to see the table with that 1823 broken out, or go ahead and approve with those, knowing those changes are going to happen?
I'm okay with approving
Is that a motion?
changes. I'll make a motion
All right.
to approve the annual report to the EPA.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the annual EPA report with the changes that Nancy mentioned being inserted. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. All right, it's approved.
Okay, thank you. So my cover memo kind of gets at why we have revisions to guidance document 16-2. Board guidance 16-1, has the only revisions to board guidance 16-1 is correction of citations based on revisions to Reg 100 so that the citations are all correct. Board Procedure 16-2, which deals with operator misconduct investigation and disciplinary action adjudicatory hearing procedures. There's a statement in Guidance 16-1 that says that the board further recognizes that it's neither practical nor desirable for all incidents of operator misconduct to result in formal disciplinary action. The board expects that the division will develop informal procedures to notify operators of problems that do not rise to a level requiring formal action. The revisions to Board Procedure 16-2 fleshes out what's sort of a broad statement or a broad charge to the division to conduct these informal or to take informal action that the board isn't really privy to because it doesn't rise to the level of requiring formal action. The intention for putting these revisions in your board procedures is transparency and consistency. So if it's in a board procedures, it holds the division's feet to the fire that the division will consistently follow these procedures in instances that don't come to the board's attention. And it provides transparency to the public that there is a process, there is a set procedures that will be followed when the division's conducting these investigations if the findings are such that the division does not make a decision to bring a request for disciplinary action to the board, that still that the division has done its due diligence and it has done it in a consistent and in a manner that members of the public can expect it will happen that way. So that's the reason for quite a bit of markup to this procedures document, and I'm willing to answer any questions you may have.
I didn't have any questions myself.
I think the one thing that stood out to me was you included, you say you had to follow what's in Reg 100, and then you added primary drinking water regulations, the discharge permit regulations, a lot of different regulations that are purview to enforce on those things, or I don't know if that one just stood out as, I don't know if do we have authority to regulate all those things, or is that a state deal?
It's just the authority to ensure that the operator is following his or her responsibilities to the extent that those regulations require. So it's part of our of Reg 100 that under operator responsibilities that I don't know the exact wording, but it refers to those regulations as well. So you're not enforcing those regulations per se. You're just enforcing or potentially bringing disciplinary action against somebody who doesn't follow those regulations to the extent a responsible operator should. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
But you've looked at it and it looks good.
Yeah, that's fine. I did have a couple of
Chris, I have a
comments.
question or a
Okay.
concern on page 3. It talks about complaints. And what my concern is that you use an operator has willfully or negligently caused or allowed the violation of the regulations or discharge permits or whatever. I think we should define the word negligent. There's different definitions of that word, and depending on which bureaucrat you're dealing with, anything you were to violate, you could be called negligent because you should have prevented that. Well, a lot of operators are in positions where they're doing the best they can, and I have a hard time defining what negligent means.
Yeah, and I mean, you're right. There are a lot of different, different definitions out there of negligent. I think the problem with defining it is, restricting the board's ability to exercise its discretion in those situations. I mean, does negligent come from, I was looking, does it come from the regulation
I think it comes from the statute.
or the
But I'm not
statute? And if it's not defined in the statute, that happens in every case where negligence is an issue. It just depends on the particular situation. And I'd advise that you not define it, because I think, if the statute doesn't define it, it just gets you into some really murky areas. It would be difficult to define. It's defined more based on circumstances.
I guess this is Ron Falco. I guess I would add that, the decision making that would come from something that goes to the board would, that authority lies with us, the board, to make that determination, not an individual staff member or staff members within the division. I think it sort of, the determination that something doesn't rise to the level of the board, a complaint, ultimately that's investigated and found to not rise to the level of having the board attention, kind of is a decision that's made within the division, but is, just reviewed within that sort of short management chain. But any decision and those decisions don't wind up having the potential for suspension or revocation or that kind of thing. The suspension for the authority for that kind of disciplinary action only rests with the board after, that due process that comes with it.
I kind of agree with Ron. It's been to the 18 years I've been here, I think we've had 3 disciplined and 1 that we lowered his grades of licenses in that whole time. And that, it doesn't look like it's going to make it to us most of the time, because the division generally handles it long before we ever get to it and generally resolves it before that time. But it's good to have a guidance policy that says this is how we do it and this is the way we have it, and it's up on there. So the first 16.1, it's only correcting the numbers on where you find it, and there's a lot of red line in 16.2 or -2.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions by board members on 16-2? I guess I had a question, not really related to the policy, but you get a complaint, do you go investigate that, or you assign it to the right person in the CDPHE, or how's it work? The process?
I am the right person in CDPHE.
You would go and investigate it.
Yes.
And determine the findings. Okay.
Yes.
Thanks. I wasn't saying you weren't the right person, but just trying to figure out how it works.
I believe the last one, I think Armando and Jackie went and seen the one at Burlington, didn't you? I think you guys were all of the one we got all the information from, I believe. I actually wasn't on the board, but you were, I read the report. It all come from you, from that office through Jackie and them.
So some highlights, just for clarity, I guess, or is that if an operator, if the division determines that an operator's conduct doesn't rise to the level of requiring formal action, that doesn't necessarily close the subject. The division continues to maintain that file as a confidential file for 3 years. And during that time, if an operator repeats the behavior or if the behavior escalates, that actually would be cause to bring it before the board. Even if, in the first instance, it wasn't deemed to be serious enough to bring to the board, the fact of repeating that behavior or for that behavior, the same behavior to escalate would almost certainly cause it to be brought to the board. And so the division's informal action is retained and the case is essentially kept open for 3 years, during which time that operator is kind of on our radar, if you will.
I think if you look on page 4 at the top, that's kind of explains that a little bit.
Right.
Nancy, this is Shelley. That is captured in the checklist under 2B. Is that correct? Because I was going to ask a question about that, and I believe you just explained it.
I'm not sure where you are with 2B.
Checklist 2B, it's on page 10.
Yes.
Okay, so that is, I was going to ask a question if you could explain that, and you just did, so thank you.
Okay.
I love anticipating questions.
While we're on that topic, just at the top of page 4 in the new couple of sentences that you added there, is this a typo where it says this applies to the complainant, staff members, witnesses, and others who provide information to the investigator and the investigator?
Are you talking about
And-
confidential?
I think
No,
the confidentiality also applies to the investigator. So
so-
there should be a comma
Well,
or,
can you just maybe put investigator at the beginning? This applies to the investigator, complainant, staff members, witnesses, and others.
Sure.
Okay.
Which page are you on?
Top
Page
of
4,
page
top.
4, the third sentence down, second, right in the middle of the paragraph.
Right there.
Just take off, just delete and the investigator and just move investigator up to the beginning of that sentence. This applies to the investigator. Okay. So that was one small thing. And just another thing I wanted to note, I don't know that we need to put it in here, but as Nancy mentioned, the investigatory files are kept confidential, and that's a provision in the APA that allows for that as long as investigations are ongoing. But even after an investigation is closed, certain information can still be held confidential, like the identity of informants, for example, or in certain situations, if, say, the person who you were investigating was found to not have, done anything wrong at all, after that 3-year period, you could, the records keeper at CDPHE could make a case that that person's name could be held confidential as well, even after the investigation is closed. So it's a case-by-case determination, just kind of based on public interest. But, identifying information can continue to be redacted even once a confidential investigation has closed and is open to the public.
Would the person have to make a request to have it, like, if Blair filed a complaint against me,
I wouldn't do that.
you might. And there was a 3-year period, then I stopped being naughty. And would I have to go to Nancy and say, I'd like to have this case formally closed? Or would it just happen automatically?
I think you mean the official investigation. I think it happens automatically after the 3 years is what the policy is saying. So, it's held open to see if there's any more complaints, but after that 3-year period, it's closed.
So 3 years and a day, and I do it again.
And
It's a new complaint.
yeah. Yeah.
It's a new, because, basically at the end of 3 years, your slate's wiped clean, and we're not pulling that information.
Gotcha.
It's a new
Careful,
investigation.
Robbie.
Stop doing that, right?
Okay. Did anybody have any questions on that point? I just wanted to, and I don't know if I've talked with you much about that, Nancy, about the fact that we can continue to keep confidential informants confidential if it makes sense, retaliation, that kind of thing. So the last tiny thing I have is on page 5, repeated operator misconduct. Under that heading, it's in the 3rd line. And it says that disciplinary action may be required for escalating circumstances in which the reported operator misconduct may not be a standalone incident. Maybe just delete the word reported, because, you're going to go through the exercise of verifying it independently, and until it's verified by you, it's not just, you're not just relying on a complaint. So if you just delete that word, I think that would resolve that concern. And that's all I had.
Thank you.
All right. What does the board think? Are we comfortable approving this today? Do we need more time to look at it, or does anybody have any more questions for Nancy on it?
Has this been up on our site just to look at too, or is this just kind of,
Buried somewhere.
has it been published anywhere, or just to
No.
us?
Just to you.
All right. What do we think? We want to move to approve or table to the next meeting? Chris, did you get your questions answered? Are you comfortable, or?
Yeah, I think I'm as comfortable as I'm going to get. What I'm concerned about is just that we constantly kind of ratchet things up on operators time and time again, and then there's strong incentives from the EPA never to backslide. And so I just don't want to always make things harder for people is all that I'm concerned about. But I hear what Alan says, that this doesn't occur very often, and probably when it does happen, it's probably necessary.
Yeah, and the willfully and negligently violating language is from Reg 100. So that's already in the regulations. This it actually just repeats verbatim what's in the reg.
Yeah, I think there's, qualified person doing the investigation. Then if we have questions about that, it ultimately comes to, I think there's checks and balances to make, address what I see your concerns, but I think there's enough checks and balances in place in my mind to deal with it. All right. Can I get a motion to approve or not approve?
And do you want to take each
Well,
policy
I move to
separately?
approve.
Oh yeah, we should probably do each policy separate. Let's do 16.1, which was just a citation change Can I get a motion to approve 16-1?
So moved.
I move to approve 16-1.
All right, so Alan moved to approve 16-1. Who was the second on the phone?
This is Lance.
Lance? All right, thanks, Lance. All in favor of approval of 16-1, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign? All right, 16-1 is approved. How about 16-2? Can I get a motion to approve 16-2 with the changes that Annette outlined?
I'll make a motion to approve 16-2.
All right, Robbie's moved to approve.
I'll second.
All right, thanks, Shelley. Shelley seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign? All right, 16-2 has been approved.
I think as a side note, the last one we had from Burlington, I think that was if I believe right, it was 100 and some odd page report to us, wasn't it? By the time you had all the documents in and.
I don't remember if we shared with the board all of the.
Yeah,
Yes.
We did, okay, well, yeah, because
it was over 100 and some odd pages.
that was an extraordinary case, in my experience. But it was also very, very limited how this was developed.
All right, what else you got for us, Nancy?
Status of the portal.
All good, status of the portal.
So the work on the portal continues, and some of the work on the portal is sort of parceled out to different folks. So I'm inviting Larissa to come up so that she can address pieces that she's working on. And I'm going to start by talking about the course catalog data. So first of all, we had trouble getting it. When we finally got it, it was in raw data form. And because of that, it needed to be prepared to be migrated into the portal. The process of preparing that data brought up some issues with the data. And so Larissa has been working very diligently to verify data and to try to obtain data that's missing. And I'm going to let you talk about that in a little bit more detail so that I don't misspeak.
So I kind of was talking to Nancy a little bit earlier about this. It's kind of a dangerous thing to start learning things because it also shows you how much you don't know. And that's what has happened. So in order for our operators to receive the credit that they have earned, we need some information. That information includes a few pieces of this is what they need. We need the titles of the courses that they have taken for the TUs that they have earned. And we need to know how many hours in the training units in the areas that they have earned those training units in. And they have earned those under a course approval number, typically in a year, like a 2 alphabet and then 4 number character, like 17 OM 1 2 3 4. And it was a commonly accepted approval format. The problem is that the data that was collected over a 5-year period wasn't collected in a consistent manner. And the consequences of that now is that unless we collect the data in a correct way now, going back over the course of at least 3 to 5 years, our operators aren't going to be getting the credit that they have earned in the past.
And what we have been collecting from course providers is the names of the courses they have provided, the course approval numbers that have been associated with those courses, and how many training units have been associated to those courses. By courses, that means if they have been delivered online or have been delivered in person, if they have been associated with a conference or a direct instruction one-on-one, or if it has been a course they deliver many, many times over the course of a month or over the course of a year, or if it was a one-time shot. If it was a course that they make up and do a little bit different every single time they deliver it, or if it is every single time they deliver it, it is exactly the same. There have been a lot of varieties that have been allowed in the past. A lot of inconsistencies have been uncovered. When we turn over a stone, it's amazing the little bugs that you see underneath it. We've learned a lot. The program staff has learned a lot by doing this, and we're grateful for a lot of the really cool relationships we've been able to build through this process. We've met a lot of course providers, and they have been amazing in what they've been willing to do to help us learn and what they've been willing to share with us. And overwhelmingly, the patience across the board, both from operators and course providers, has been just amazing. Just such grace.
So Larissa, would you say that one of the biggest data gaps that was discovered was situations where multiple classes were approved under a single course number? So for example, there might be 10 online classes that were all approved under a single course number, and training units for each of those individual courses was not in the database. Was that one of the biggest problems?
That's what I thought was going to be one of the biggest problems. But no, that's not what was revealed.
That did happen.
That did happen. That was something that did happen to some of our largest course providers. I believed that was going to be a more prevalent issue than it was. The largest problem that I have found is in the inconsistency that was allowed in submissions of courses for approvals, not just in who within an agency was allowed, but the manner in which a person was allowed and on whose behalf a person was allowed to submit a course. Take, for example, if a particular district had the ability to submit on behalf of FEMA, on behalf of the American Red Cross, and on behalf of the EPA. They had the ability at a jurisdictional level, had the ability and the authority to submit on behalf of the federal government for a course and issue a certificate on behalf of the federal government. That was shocking to me. I didn't know that was a procedure that was allowed. I came from a different world where if we were going to get a federally issued certificate, we had to take a course that was delivered by a federally approved trainer. And I was a little caught off guard by that. I have learned a lot. And I think that there are some great areas that we can really build this program with some good integrity, and we could do it right. And we're excited. I have great support from Nancy, amazing support from Steve and the office staff. And I know we have great support from you. I mean, we've had it from the get-go, and we're just excited to keep going.
So I have a friend who teaches a Red Cross babysitting class, and she is able to do that by following their template, I suppose. And you're saying that this is the same as that, or this is different than that?
I'm saying that I would like to learn just who has the authority to teach classes and issue certificates on behalf of what programs out there, and to make sure that, you know, we're doing it right. And I need to learn. I need to learn that and make sure that our program has the whole picture moving forward, just the full knowledge of what we're doing.
So the other question that I have is the inconsistencies in the class itself. You said sometimes they're the same class is taught in maybe many different ways.
That's right. It's really funny. One of the course providers that I have had numerous conversations with on her own time and my own time, evening talks, she referred to them as Build-A-Bear classes because it was an approved course, and it was approved for, like, let's say a 6-hour course. And no two times that the course was delivered was it even the same subject matters. The certificates didn't have the same number of training units in the same area any 2 times. The titles were never, maybe some of the times the titles were the same, but under the same course approval number, it showed up. Same course approval number. You could look at 4 certificates, same course approval number, and 4 times they had different titles and different TUs. Or sometimes it would be the same course approval number, and sometimes it was a 2-hour or 2 credit hour class, and then sometimes it was a 4 credit hour class. Now, there's philosophy and reasons behind it. And I am not here to judge one way or another. I'm not saying which is right or wrong. What I'm saying is, and what I'm hoping for from the board, is moving forward, I would like a little bit of help when it comes to saying, at the pleasure of the board, what kind of consistencies would be best for the program moving forward. I know it's not something that we can, at a knee-jerk reaction, say, well, today moving forward, this is the only way we're going to do it. This is the only allowable way based upon what one person thinks. That's not right. That's not right for our operators. That's not what's best for our course providers. And there's no dictatorship around here. That's why we have a board, right? But I think that to be fair to both our course providers and to be fair to our operators, I think some consistency is what this program needs.
I think, in my opinion, we're getting to, I mean, we're not looking into the past. We can't change the past. And some of those things you mentioned seem totally fine. Like if our guys took a FEMA class, but didn't have an operator approval, you could get that approved by writing up the class description, who the instructor was, and submit it and get that TU approval. So that's, also with the, you get approved a 10-hour class, and if your guys only take 6 hours, you give them 6 hours of credit. So right or wrong, I think we don't need to fix all the past. I think these things get reapproved every year. I think they expire. We don't have to go 3 years back because further than that, they're expired anyway. So I think I'm just afraid we're holding up moving forward by worrying about what happened in the past, which I don't think is that atrocious, from what I'm hearing, because I've done courses and some of these things sound familiar to me. So I think I just want to move forward, get the portal going. I've heard from operators that, what the portal doesn't do anything, what's going on with the portal. People are getting worried that we're not moving forward. And I'm thinking that some of that is because we're too worried about what happened under OCPO or in the past, and we don't need to fix all that. That's fine. I mean, people can submit their certificates for the next 3 years as far as I'm concerned, and we start doing it right from here on out. So I guess I would just caution about focusing on the past and say, let's focus our attention on getting it set up and moving forward in the future.
So I think the point of what Larissa was describing is that taking a process that fairly manual and allowed maybe more flexibility than perhaps it should have. And trying to take that data and put it in a structure like the portal has created some issues. And where there are significant, obvious data gaps, there's been an attempt to fill those data gaps so that operators can submit their training unit certificates and not be stopped in the portal when they're submitting something that's perfectly acceptable, as you describe. So Larissa and her team have just been, and mostly Larissa, has been putting in a ton of time verifying data and identifying knowledge gaps that instructors can fill. And that process is almost finished. Am I right?
Today's the deadline for our course providers. And then we have a 24-hour turnaround until we have to get it to our web developers. It's going to be a late night.
So once Larissa finishes the verification and the collection of data, she submits that information, and that's the last piece really before allowing the data to be migrated. So I think the data, what Larissa is collecting, doesn't get migrated. It has to be put into some tables that then are migratable. So we're very close to migrating the last piece, like within days of being able to migrate the course, finish migrating the course data, because I think some of the course data has already been migrated, but these were the troublesome parts of it. So getting back to the status of the portal, there are many things that the portal is doing and doing well in the test environment. But by not having the course data all migrated, it holds up every application. Because of the regulatory training that's now required, the portal has to read course information for every single application, whether it's a reciprocity or whether it's to sit for an exam or whether it's a renewal. And so the course data has been the key pin, the thing that's holding up things. But I have been in the test environment testing out the course providers piece of it, what information they need to put in to submit a new course, the instructor's piece of it, what instructors need to do to upload courses. And overall, my sense is that most everything is working right. There's been some issues with the automatic notifications, and those issues are being resolved. In fact, the issues that are coming up, for the most part, are fairly minor. And so I would say that the portal is, except for this training units piece, it needs a little bit of testing. It probably needs a week of testing before we open it up to the public. But I think we're just really, really close. We are not going to go fully live with full functionality by tomorrow. That's a disappointment. But it is, I don't see anything on the horizon that will cause us to be later than June 1st. And I think we will be fully live and fully functional before Memorial Day. That gives the opportunity for testing. And when I say testing, I think that it's essential that we're able, from an operator side, for somebody to start out from the beginning and to get through the whole process, including testing the rules engine for the regulatory training courses. That has not been, that's the one piece on the operator side that we haven't had, is the ability to test and make sure the rules engine is operating correctly for the yes/no for the regulatory training requirement. As soon as we have the data, we'll be able to do the testing. On the course provider side, on the course catalog side, that has not been available for testing for as long, and they are continuing to tweak it. But again, I am finding that all of the functions are working as anticipated. And I don't think that there's going to be any huge bugs on the course catalog side. And the notifications is a big thing. Getting those automatic notifications out is really important. And so the time that's being put in to make sure that they're being submitted as anticipated, like they're actually going out to operators that do certain things in the system, that's really important. And then just making sure that they say what they're supposed to say. So in some cases, the language was written several months ago and the process changed just a little bit, and that needs to be reflected in the notifications piece. There's a lot of detail work, but we're down to like little tiny details. So, any questions about the portal status?
And we understand the frustration. We hear it every day, and we feel it every day. Our world in the office would be much easier if the portal were functional. We understand. We are trying our best.
Blair, I don't think that there's anything holding up moving forward with the portal. I think right now we're at a place where we're moving absolutely as fast as we can to get it live as soon as we can. And there's a lot of people doing a lot of hard work on it.
Yeah, I didn't mean to discount.
No,
I was here the other side.
Mhm.
People are concerned because they can't take tests. They're concerned because the portal doesn't do anything except, they can look at their info, but it's not functional, right? So
Right.
I'm hearing that. I think we told them May 1st. Now, if we tell them June, I think we need a date. We can tell them we're going to be up. I'm just getting.
I know it's a lot like
the other side.
it's a lot like the boy who cried wolf. We say a date and then we say another date and then we say another date.
The customer service feedback that I'm getting is exceptional. So we knew this was going to be a difficult transition, and at the silver lining is that people get a warm body on the other line being helpful. And so imagine where we'd be if we didn't have that piece.
I have some concerns with that though too, because until now, we've been able to do some things to help some people. We've been able to get renewals complete. There's a body of people though now, an increased body of people who have new needs that we are not able to fill them. For example, we now have a new body of people who in the old system will have been able to take a test. And given the new system now, they're going into a second, what would have been their cycle, and now they're in a new cycle and they can't take a test. So the new people are frustrated. We have a group of people who are frustrated because we have courses that we are delivering and people are taking, and we do not have these courses approved. And our people are taking them and they do not have certificates, and they are not getting credit for them. So now we have some course providers that are getting nervous. We have people who are upset because they can't get their renewals done because we shot them back an email saying, we apologize, you do not have a course in, your packet of complete courses that meets a regulatory requirement, that meets the regulatory requirement. And they want to appeal that saying, I do have a course that meets regulatory. I do. Please reconsider this one. I have somebody who made a very strong argument that, yes, this course right here, I'm 100% meets the regulatory requirement. What are you going to do? What's your process in place that I can make an appeal? And here we are sitting because after our last meeting, we said, okay, we have a great list in place. We have a fantastic list in place. These are some really good courses. And for the time being, until the portal is up and live, we're going to stick by this list. So I guess my question to you is, in this meantime, what do you advise the program to do for courses that are being delivered that we can't use the tool, the portal to approve? And what would you like us to do for courses that could potentially meet regulatory training requirements that we cannot use the tool, the portal, to approve for the yes/no training requirement? So that's one question. What would you like the program to do for those two things? Or at least maybe some feedback, some ideas. And then probably the bigger question, and I could wait off on this, but well, yeah, I just will start there.
So could we come up with a temporary course number?
That is an option. There's a way to do that. Or we say, we wait a month. We wait and we do it right. We tell course providers, we apologize for the delay. We are very, very sorry, but we want to do it correctly and we want you to put this through the portal. We want to do it right. We don't want to do it twice.
But you say that people are taking courses and they're not getting credit, but they will get credit when the portal comes up.
Right.
So there's not going to be a case out there where someone's teaching a course, I'm taking a course, and then you say, you drove to Denver, you paid $100, but you're not going to get credit for this course. That's not going to happen.
That won't happen.
What could happen, Robbie, is if somebody needs to renew. So somebody took a course before their certificate before their certificate expired. They need to renew. They're the ORC. And they need those training units from that course that hasn't been approved yet in order to renew their certificate so that the facility doesn't get a violation. Now, I would see that situation would rise to a higher level of priority than ones who can wait. But there are a few situations where the operator needs those training units and they need them right away.
You may have heard, I don't know if operators have spoken with you about that. We haven't received that within the program of that need at this time.
Say that again?
We have not received feedback within the program and from an operator that's in that situation.
They have enough training units, they just can't get through it.
No one has contacted us saying,
Okay.
I've taken a class, I need to renew, I don't have a cert.
But potentially they have, or hypothetically, they have contacted the state. And so my certificate is due May 15th. And I've not met my regulatory training, and that's the only one I'm missing. And I'm the ORC.
So I was up at the intermediate and advanced school a couple of weeks ago, and there were operators who were desperate for their regulatory training. That was a big deal for them. But I did talk to a couple of other operators who said, oh no, I need this week-long class, which, by the way, they're getting a fairly large number of training units for if it's a week-long class. I need these to renew my certificate, and my renewal is coming up June 1st. So it may not be that they have contacted the CCWP office yet. It's just a matter of, will there be enough time to take care of that renewal before the certificate expires? And I think the CCWP office has been doing a phenomenal job. You were telling me, I think, Larissa, that your turnaround time for renewal applications is like 24 hours. They're just doing a phenomenal job staying on top of the renewal applications that are coming in.
Could we, there's maybe 5 people like this. Could we just extend their certificate a month? Just kind of walk these people through. I know it's not following in the box, but Larissa wants to do it right. And if we could just buy a little time, couldn't we just say, okay, we understand the situation. We're going to extend your certification by 1 month until this gets sorted out. You looked at me funny, but
So Robbie, we have had people in that situation and we have a solution. So we tell them, this stinks for you. You need to pay the late fee. And you may write an email to us that explains the situation, and we are happy to take this email to the board and explain the situation, and we'd be happy to try to get your late fee refunded because of the situation.
That still doesn't answer the issue of the regulatory training unit.
So there's also lots of ways around that. They could go and take a 1-hour online class. There's
That is approved.
Yes, there's lots of online courses they could take at will. There's the state offers numerous. Well, there's a list of hundreds of regulatory classes to choose from. At least 4 online providers have classes that are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for fewer than $25 that any operator could take at his or her discretion.
So maybe I'm not understanding, but I guess I don't understand what, because the course numbers aren't available on for maybe courses that they have taken in the past. But you're saying they've already probably taken it, but they can take another one that is, but it isn't even, are we still going in the back door for renewals and stuff? So it's just that the course that they have taken isn't approved for another month.
They can't assign a number to it until it goes through the process, right?
We could.
Good.
We could make a outside the box approval process and make a checklist of all the same exact things that the portal would go through and find a way to assign it a number and then give that to the course provider so they could issue the certificates and then get the portal to somehow assign it the same number. May be able to do that. I'm not sure. Have to ensure that, because then the portal later is going to have to make sure that it reads. And the other thing that's scary about that is it's high attendance. It's not 1 or 2 people that could potentially be screwed up. It's 250 people if it doesn't work right. It'd be our first test case. And the other thing
The things that are still changing in your regulatory could screw up everybody that is going on. If we change more than 1 hour, and it must be 2 or 3 hours later, somebody is taking it now, renewed, and says, already got his license, took the regulatory again, and it comes up the next time and says, I got my regulatory as 1 hour, but now the new stakeholder meeting says it's going to be more hours than that.
Well, this falls in interim guidance, so they're cool with that. That won't be an issue. We're good in that way. I think that on a foundational level, and again, it's Larissa falling on her sword, is that we have numerous course providers who really would like to get their courses approved. And who are we to decide that one should get through right now and not all? Or I could send out a mass email that said, any old Tom, Dick, and Harry who wants a course approved that hasn't, now's the time, send them on through, and then we issue them all. Maybe it's me not thinking about this in the right way, but I think what's good for the rest is good for the best, and we need to do this right and not twice. I am of the opinion that we should wait, but I would like to hear what the board thinks and what your recommendations are as to what you feel that the program should be doing moving forward.
I think you could, if we can get the portal up by June in this 1 month period, you just say, just like we were doing it before, you turn in your certificates, your proof of all we care is they meet the hours, right? 30 hours for a level A. So turn in your certificates. If it doesn't have a course number, it's going to take a little work for you to say, well, this is we got to work with them a little, in this month period. But I would say you turn in your certificates, we review those as you've been doing this kind of backdoor process for a month now. So we do it another month. We give them a little leniency on, if you don't have a course number, but it's the wastewater, advanced course, that's okay. I think we got to work with them a little bit. I think the regulatory, I'm almost of the opinion we suspend the regulatory until we can get it figured out, because I know it's for ones that have been taken 3 years ago and then they got to get a regulatory, it's a big mess. I think we should start fresh right now. And in 3 years, they'll know they have to have a regulatory course. I think, the ones who are renewing now had that regulatory on the test that they took because it was still in the ABC. I think it still is now. I don't think they're switched over to the one without regulatory questions. So I'm of the opinion we suspend the whole regulatory thing until we get it figured out. But
Can we do that? It's in Reg 100 that it was supposed to start March 1. Here we're backing up against policy or Reg 100 we made a rulemaking hearing for.
Right. It is in regulation, and it is something that has been being enforced for the past couple of months. And so I think the board would have to.
I don't think that you can just pick and choose what parts of the regulation
Right.
you enforce once it's in effect.
Right. I was
we
going
put it in effect, right? So
it became effective March 1st. If you wanted to have an emergency rulemaking hearing and change the regulation, you'd have to follow up with a non-emergency rulemaking. And I think that by the time you did that, it wouldn't be worth the time.
I guess the answer is we just got to get the portal up and running. So
Yep.
That's the key. We can hold off another half a month. I think they're really confused about the test taking, and do we have the whole setup where they go to PSI, or what, is that all worked out? So
Yes, that part has already been tested out. So the link to PSI is working. And the online payments thing has had some issues, but I think they're really close to getting that resolved so that the payment stream is also functional.
Armando, did you have something you wanted to add?
I just wanted a clarification. Maybe yours is- I thought what I heard too is that yes, there are some issues around the reg requirement, but that's the more minor of the issues. And the issue was that they took a class that they thought should have been on.
This is Gary. If there's an online class available, that's an hour for a relatively modest fee, why can't we just point the people who are having an issue with fulfilling that to that class?
That's that's our standard practice in the program, is that if we have either people calling in or if people submit a renewal and don't have a regulatory course submitted within their renewal, that's exactly what we do. We have a list that's a comprehensive list that Nancy had put together and that she has published on the CCWP webpage. And it has all the providers, all the contact information. And I think that that's really accessible.
I can understand why someone would be frustrated though, if they've already taken a course and then we're saying, well, just take another one because we don't have it together.
And Armando, you're absolutely right, is that the regulatory piece is like kind of like a gnat. People are like, it's bothersome, and it's frustrating, but it's not a deal breaker for people at this time.
So what's the biggest what's the elephant here? If that's a gnat, what's the biggest thing we got to get?
You hit the nail on the head with your very first statement. It's the fact that the program that we promised people is not accessible right now.
Yeah.
And it's not accessible to operators. It's not accessible to course providers, and it's not accessible even to our staff. And we're all feeling the weight of the tool not being functional, and we're all working hard to get it there.
Well, back in February, we were supposed to have it there. March 1, we were supposed to have it there. April 1, we were supposed to have it there. May 1, we're supposed to have it there. Now we're at June 1 probably before we have it there.
Yes, sir.
And I think that's really making your life miserable a little bit. I think the Google part, I'm going to use it before the portal gets there because I've got 4 licenses to get done. But I think I just took a course with Rocky Mountain, AWWA, and I got a certificate. And I'm not sure if that's one of those courses that was approved with the old regime or how it got it. It has a new number, and it states right on it that that is regulatory on it. How it got that, because I understood after January 31st or January, they weren't handling any of that stuff. How did and it's got a 19 number on it.
They would have submitted it before OCPO stopped reviewing courses. So the CCWP office has not started approving courses. They haven't started reviewing and approving courses. So OCPO had to have had the information and given the approval and assigned the number to it. And so that means that would have been in the course catalog database, and that data is migratable.
So they were assigning regulatory numbers before the course even come out.
There's not a separate number for regulatory training. It's a yes, no. So when they submitted their course, they may have requested, because that's what we ask course providers to do. If you want this to be approved for regulatory training, make a mention of that under the description. If they did that, then it was approved for regulatory training. And that was done by OCPO.
So is there a plan in place to get the portal up and going? Do we have what we need to do that, or do we need to make that plan, or that's going? And you think it'll be?
There's a plan. All the players are teleconferencing once a week as to, what has been done, what questions may have come up, what needs to be done, where everybody is on the various pieces they're working on. And I think we do have a clear plan. I think we have a clear path forward. And I think it's just letting the dominoes fall.
I renewed my wastewater through the Google deal, and even that was easier than the past. So I'm like, even that's an improvement. If we use the back door, that's why I'm like, let's get going. We got the customer service.
I've got 4 of them. I'm hoping it's really easy.
It was through that back door. You submit all your search, you scan.
It was really easy.
When I think the portal will be an improvement on that, yep. I just feel, we just gotta get the portal done. Operators getting nervous and
will the portal take scanned in documents?
Oh, yeah.
So you can look at it and see, even though that number isn't there, you have a number, but you don't exactly know. There might have been a number, but what was the real come out from that? I don't know. In our little world out there, we don't supplement, we don't do anything. All of ours is in that discipline. It may only take 12 or 18 or 24, but we're submitting 44, 34, 50 some hours in that one discipline. So I never have to worry about that so much. But these people that are crossing, that's where you're spending your time to find out what that is. Half of this and half of that to make it work. Will that happen still in the portal that way too?
Oh,
You have to
yes.
physically look at it every time though.
So the rules in the portal will, the portal knows what information, what data has been submitted for that course. So if that course gives X number of training units for wastewater and Y number of units for collection, or Y number for whatever other certificate you have, the portal will actually do the math and say, for your water treatment certificate, you need X number of training units and 50% of them have to be in water treatment, and you have X number of training units and 50% of them are. And they'll be able to do the same thing for each of your separate certificates. The portal is designed to do that calculation. And then that calculation that the portal does is repeated on the reviewer's page. And so, and so the reviewer can open up the certificate and verify that the certificate says the same thing that the operator, when the operator put the course number in, the portal went ahead and dragged the information over and said, but the reviewer will have the ability to open up every course completion certificate and verify that just because you took this course, the maximum number of training units was X, but on your certificate, you only got Y training units. And so that may make a difference. So yeah, so the reviewer will have all the information they need, including that calculation that the portal does on. And because of that calculation that the portal is doing, that's one of the reasons why what Larissa was talking about, Build-A-Bear kind of courses, where the maximum number of training units may be 0.7, but somebody only got 0.2. We don't want operators thinking, well, I've got all the training units I need, when in fact they're short based on what's on their certificate. And so those are some of the holes that we're trying to plug up so that operators don't get confused and they don't get misled.
Most time when I got a certificate though, most time when I got a certificate in the last 10 years, it's got the course approval date, the time, whenever, where it was, and then it listed it out all from supplement to the top of what each one was, which may be different in it. I haven't seen a whole lot of them that in mine that says this course was worth this much time. It's this much time in each one of them.
Correct. Because in the past, you didn't have a portal doing the calculations. And so all you needed to know was just how many training units did you get. You did not need to know what that course was, what the maximum training units for that course was. And so that's actually created some of the issues that Larissa's trying to fix.
Yeah.
All by
I'm pretty
yourself.
sure that Rocky
There was a
Mountain.
way to upload these certificates. I mean, this is what we brought up on the first day of training. Is if we could upload these certificates, then people could test and they could recertify and everything else. And we're not going that direction. We're still going the same direction. And I've asked this the last couple meetings, what is the plan if this doesn't come on in April, in May, now in June? If this doesn't come online, there still isn't a plan B. We're still, I don't know. I'm very frustrated and I don't know.
So certificates, so the training unit certificates become very significant for renewals. And both the workaround the workaround solution that the CCWP office has been using and the portal allow an upload of those training unit certificates. So those training unit certificates will be available for the reviewer to see in every situation.
Yeah, we did his. He did it perfectly himself. He knows. I think what he's saying is that the redundancy is scary. Is that if the portal is up and running, and even let's just say for 2 years, and then all of a sudden it crashes and it dies overnight and it all goes away. Even if we say there's a backup somewhere in internet land, what is our backup plan if it goes away and internet land can't be restored? That makes me scared and lose sleep at night too. That what's our backup plan to not lose data, that we have all this faith and confidence in the portal, and then what happens if it fails us? I mean, maybe that's a bigger conversation that we don't have to have today, but
I'm not sure that's something you have to worry about today.
Yeah, we got to get it
Yeah,
online before we worry about
Right.
it going down.
So I went to a Colorado Rural Water conference, and I have not gotten a certificate because they said they were just going to, I guess, upload it. So I'm thinking now maybe I should request a paper certificate to be mailed to me, because I'm afraid that it's going to get lost in the shuffle.
I have started that process for you, Robbie. We're going to be getting those out. We were, on the CRWA side, we were assuming we were going to be able to upload by now, and everybody would be taken care of. With the delay, she is starting, Amanda's starting that process now. And, well, we're just going to get it out to everybody, maybe via email. And that way, if you've already got a hard copy of it, you can upload it instantly rather than having to scan it and everything else. But it is in the process of happening right now.
That would be good, because people don't even know really how many TUs they earned. And so if you've got a renewal coming up, you're going, geez, I'm a little nervous and I'm not ready to renew for a while. And I have, no, because you offered to send it. And I said, no, I'll wait. But I'm just saying I can understand people's anxiety.
Maybe we're coming at it. At some point you got to trust the operators, right? They sign this code of conduct. So if we could if the portal could say, enter your TUs in here, and they meet the thing, and then you audit 10% of them or cross-check a certain percent against, I think that would be good enough. At some point, we don't have to get exact on, if it doesn't work, if that's a hang up in the portal, then treat them as, this is how you apply for TUs. This piece is the kind of the way you've been doing the workaround, where the operator certifies that they have these TUs, and we got to trust them and verify a certain percentage of them. I think that would be fine too. I think we're getting too worried about perfecting the portal, but we're not here for a perfect portal, right? We're here for the operators and to get them certified. So however we can do that, I think that's how, what we need to focus on rather than a perfect portal, because I can see all these issues that you're talking about, and especially when you throw in the past, because it was done differently, right? You could have a 10-hour course, but give someone 2 hours, because you don't want to give them a 10-hour certification if they showed up for 2 hours of it. So that doesn't fit with the portal, but I'm saying the portal's for the operators. We're not here to create the perfect portal. Anybody else on the phone? Any other board members have comments, questions for Larissa or...
I agree with you completely, Blair. This is Chris, and I think somehow we got to get it online as soon as possible.
Yeah, I appreciate you making that comment as well, Blair.
I think I've been telling operators this is a rough period, but it's going to be so much better when we get to the end of it. But yeah, I think it has been a while, so we just got to get to that end. If we have to make some adjustments and compromise some pieces, I mean, like I say, it was easier just to do it through the Google thing than it had been before. So, that's an improvement. I mean,
I guess as a board member, I'm going to say you have to do what there's a list out of there to get the regulatory, and you're getting more regulatory to them if they call. You can go do this in a few minutes or an hour, get it back to us. We're ready to go. You're going to get it on an email. We're ready to go. We'll keep on going. We have to stick with what lists we have and what we can provide for them. And let's move on to the point and use, Nancy, your discretion to move that in that direction as quickly as we can. That's what I think I am as a board member saying is, let's get it up there. Let's get it working. Let's see how people are going with it. There's never, I can see you getting phone calls every day about it to say, this is not the way I thought it was supposed to go. I'm hoping everything as it comes up and goes. Sometimes when we push buttons, in my era, we don't get what we think we're going to get. So, but we have to trust you to get us to that point because we're not the ones on the front line. There should be a complete 5 or 6 times a week till we get this thing up and online and going. This is not us, it's not it's for the operators. I don't care. In my opinion, there is no, I know the state kind of owns this and we're trying to do this and you're trying to do that. It's got to be this way and let's get going.
Yes.
I'm real frustrated that I even went to that course. I even asked them to get up and tell them, as part of being Colorado Rural Water, how much we're trying to do to get this to a point that you guys got it. And Rocky Mountain says, we're going to say that. And I thought David Danny did an excellent job of explaining a lot of that stuff when he was given regulatory. His regulatory class was really, really good. But at an hour and a half, he was still missing half of his slides. So I don't know what's going to end up with being regulatory. I guess we still have a stakeholder still going. Okay. I guess I'll have a question after that is how long is that going to take?
So
you guys are doing that or?
So the stakeholder group met for the first time April 4th. And we have another meeting scheduled for Thursday of this week. And the group started out having a lot of different ideas and kind of narrowed down some of the possibilities. They're going to be talking about specific learning objectives for the regulatory course. But at the end of the day, the objective of the stakeholder group is to come with a recommendation, a draft guidance and recommendation for you guys. So that's the direction they're heading in. I don't expect that draft guidance will take, I'm hoping that you'll have it by your August meeting.
So I just want to be, maybe I misunderstood something. Did you say that you're telling people, go ahead and pay the late fee and then we'll get it sorted out? I mean, and then we're going to refund it or?
So Robbie, the CCWP office does not have the authority to collect anything different than what the regulations say they have to collect in terms of fees. That being said, the board has the authority to approve refunding fees. And I think that's the process that the CCWP office, I think they get on a slippery slope if they start ignoring the regulation or they start doing something different than what's written down that they have to follow. And so I think that their process is correct.
So that hasn't happened yet, or we would be approving refunds at this meeting,
You approved refunds at your last meeting.
right?
Looks like we got a couple on our agenda today.
That's right.
So should we say, if people ask, operators ask, it'll be up by June 1st, and then are we going to, can we put something on the website? Because the website still says May 1st. Say we had a delay, it'll be June 1st. You can get recertified by using the workaround. You can't do course submissions or take a test until after June 1st. Is that right? Okay. All right. Anybody else, any other board members on the phone have any comments, questions?
This is Gary. If the hang-up is the course catalog, is there part of the other functions that we can go live with, such as the approval to sit for the exam?
Everyone who sits for approval to sit for an exam has to have a regulatory training course, which draws from the portal, which draws from the course catalog. So the answer, Gary, is no. We have live right now what we're able to go live with, which means that operators can log in to their accounts. They can verify their information. They can add information. By adding information, they've essentially completed their application. So we do encourage operators that want to sit for an exam to go ahead and put in their experience, to put in their education, to fill out the profile information as completely as they can, to upload their documentation of lawful presence, and so on and so forth. Operators should be able to download and print their certificates. And those are the functions that are available to operators right now. That's as far as we can go with it. We cannot open it up for operators to sit to take an exam until the course catalog stuff is in.
But if I take a class and I can submit a paper copy of that, can we do a workaround to get them approved to sit for the exam? By going in and manually looking at what they put in.
Gary, we've looked at every permutation of that idea that is possible. And we keep coming back to the applications to sit for an exam are more complicated than the applications for renewals. And because of that complication, we run the risk of approving something, but then not having the data in the database that is necessary to support that decision. Furthermore, the applications need to be submitted in the portal so that PSI knows that that operator is approved to sit for an exam. The approval has to take place in the portal so that PSI gets that information. Otherwise, the operator won't be able to schedule their exam with PSI.
Okay.
All right, if there's no other comments, we should probably get moving. Thanks, Larissa, for the update. What's that? Oh, it's her turn again? Well, welcome back. We got contractor update.
So this just is a bunch of numbers that reflects how many renewal and exam applications we've seen since last we met and since the CCWP program began receiving applications for renewals and exams. You'll see that overall we've received, as of April 17th, about 350 renewals and about 341 exams. And right now we're at about a 24-hour turnaround. We're able to receive a application and the next day, provided an operator has everything that he or she needs, they can get their certificate or they can retrieve their certificate on the portal the next day. Some common problems that we're still seeing from our operators. For exams, typically the biggest issue that we're seeing is that that they are not able to show their verification of 30 days. And some operators say, oh, I already showed that. I showed OCPO that already. And that may be the case. Some people don't question it at all. And they're happy to produce that information. Others really challenge it and they say, I already provided that information. And we have the paper copies and we're able to retrieve them, and there's nothing in the paper copy that shows that in like 90% of the cases. And then usually when we're able to scan them back a copy of what they submitted to OCPO, then they, without question, send it back to us with whatever it is that we're requesting. But sometimes they're grumpy, sometimes they're not. Regardless, that's typically the only thing that is usually the grumbly point. When it comes to renewals, the biggest hangup, other than sometimes people don't have a Gmail account, and so they have to create a Gmail account first before they turn around and are able to actually complete their application. The only other thing that still surprises some operators is the fact that all of a sudden they have to have a regulatory training course complete. So then we have to talk a little bit about the change in regulation and point them to those online resources of how they can access that information and the change in the regulation, and then point them to the online resources like we had talked about that, well, you could take an online course. It's relatively inexpensive. It can be done at home or on the weekend or during work hours if your company allows it. And then usually once they see how easy it really is, then they are not angry at all. And then they love that they can get their certificate instantly. We're getting fewer and fewer exams and renewals. We're already poised to send out the next batch of emails for the May 15th to June 15th operators who are needing to renew. We were ready with them, hoping we would never need to send those emails, but ready in case we were going to, in case the portal wasn't going to be live. So we have that next group of people set and ready to go, and learning from the past two batches, and from our, just learning experience. We knew, first off, we need to sort out the people who had a higher level of certification. So if they had an A, we didn't need to send them any notification that their B level certification was expiring. And also we needed to make sure that we had an actual email address for every single solitary one of them. And if we didn't, we added them to our postcard list. So we learned from the previous months. So that's going to make it easier for our operators to get the information they need in the most timely fashion. So I guess that's a little bit of a silver lining.
We did send postcards to every operator that we could not verify their email address in the portal. So they have been a mailing as well to get them to contact the office to make sure we get that appropriate email address for them.
So when you say you have 341 exams received and 341 exams processed, how are you processing them if we don't have the portal?
That's the exam, the people that took the exams in January and February to get their certificate passing the exam through the old. So this is the getting certificates to those that have already tested in January and February.
All right, thanks.
The how is a Google form, just like the one you filled out.
Yeah.
And the overall is just since CCWP took over the program.
Right.
That's just from April 1 to 17.
April 1 to April 17 is the 183.
And since the program started is the
overall column, yes.
Right.
I just want to make one quick comment. I had an operator come to me and say, I called Colorado Rural Water and they say they don't know anything about it, or maybe it wasn't that. And I said, well, it's because the program is called CCWP, and let me get you the phone number. And I would just maybe recommend that Colorado Rural Water says,
I listen to those calls, and they're very good at explaining to them. Well, actually, they give them the phone number and then they transfer them while they're on the phone. They don't make them call back. We actually in-house can transfer them, so they're getting transferred directly back to those. So yeah, no, I will mention it. Believe me, because I don't like to hear that, but I do. My office is situated where I hear the calls coming in, and they're talking to them about the program, who it is. They're giving them the phone number, and then they're transferring them over. So they're not having to hang up and call back. They're actually getting to speak to the program people. So
I don't know what happened, but anyway, he called then your office and had all of his questions answered and everything was fine.
Good. We're happy to hear that kind of feedback. One other thing, just heads up again. And again, it's published online and we're happy to explain when anybody hits this, is that there's still a group of, some operators that are confused about how 50% of the TUs that they earn to renew must be in the area that they're renewing. So if I'm renewing a wastewater certificate, 50% of my training units must be in wastewater specific TUs. Some people still need to be reminded and pointed towards that. But
That's been since the beginning of time.
So there are two particular requests that we're happy to bring to the board from some of our operators who were issued late fees. One was from an operator named Josh Ulrich, and he says that he requests a refund for a late fee that was charged while renewing his D1 license. And he says it was caused during the transition from OCPO to CWP. And he says that emails were lost and communication was interrupted, and he would appreciate our help in this matter. So Josh received our emails, and our program couldn't really figure out a good reason why his were particularly late. And there were no emails from our end that were lost and no communication from our end that was interrupted. But we're happy to bring this information to you for consideration. The second operator, his name is John Zielman. Now this one, this particular operator, he works for a camp, like a summer camp. And the owner of the camp submitted his paperwork, hard copies, to OCPO far in advance, like leaning forward, because they're not open year round. And so they had it in their files that this was something that needed to get done, leaned way far ahead with both payment and paperwork, got it notarized, sent it in, had it sent back, but they had everything, all their mail forwarded to a different place, and they did not receive it back in enough time for when they did open back up. The return mail, the gap on this one was legitimate. And they said, we sent the appropriate paperwork along with the payment to OCPO well before the expiration date. The reason why our payment is now late is because OCPO returned all the paperwork and the payment to us. When you issue the credit, will you please email me a credit invoice? So she's asking for consideration for a late fee refund on behalf of John Zielman.
All right. Do I have a motion to return those late fees to Josh and John?
I'll move that.
I'll second.
All right. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. All right.
I also wanted to talk to you a little bit about some of the other refunds that are visible in the EUSA ePay. If somebody were to look in there, they'd see some negative $50 charges and might wonder why. So the way that our Google Forms were set up is that if somebody who had taken an exam either in the late part of 2018 or very early in 2019, if they were using the Google Forms to finish up their exam process, if they went through and they submitted and finish up to get their certificate for their exam, they were issued a $105 fee for a $55 charge. And in speaking with Nancy early on, we said, I don't think that there was going to be a late fee issued, and nowhere in any document did it say that that was supposed to happen. I don't know, it was well before we were built in a place. That $50 late fee should not have been issued to them. And so we went through one by one-to-one comparison and found all the places where those late fees were issued in error. And we went back and refunded those people that $50 late fee when they were charged in our program's error. It was just the Google Forms error. And we have that in documentation on USA ePay and in email as a second point of verification to the operators. And we have all of that saved just for record keeping sake. Quickly, we've already done our portal updates. Operator communication gaps. This is what Steve had said. There's a number of operators who we still do not have email addresses for. We've solicited help from our system. I have a list of system friends, I call them. They're like my ORCs or some of the HR points of contact at some of the big systems. And I have a list of email of operators who I don't have emails for. And I've sent out a bunch of them and have got a lot of back from people who think, oh, hey, yeah, we know them. Oh, yeah, they retired a couple years ago, but they're still in the industry. They're doing private contracting or so-and-so, and we've been able to get a lot, but there were still some that we don't have email addresses for. That's a problem because in order for somebody to access the portal, their username is their email address and their password is their operator ID. And so we need an email address. So we sent a little postcard out to everybody, every operator that we had a mailing address or post office box saying, hey, we haven't been able to talk to you. Get back with us. So hopefully we'll be hearing from them. Our course catalog, developing picture and needs. We talked about that already, that how we don't have one unique course title for every one board approval or course approval number. Some of the operator feedback we're receiving is people are nervous. They want to get into the portal. They want to take exams. They want to get their course. Some of the course providers want to get their new courses in and approved. Some of the operators are happy with how fast things are and that it is all, internet based. Some of the operators are grumpy because it's internet based and they just want to do it on paper and they want to send things in the mail. Some operators love that they can get their certificates and print them out right now. Some operators want to get it done. They want the pretty paper with the sticker. Regulatory requirements. We are kind of in the same boat as you. We want to know what the advisory group says so that we can start approving courses. We don't really have like a set list of this is when a course meets these things, they get the check mark for regulatory. Yes or no's. We don't really have that.
Armando, did you have some?
So, I understand that there's issues with the approval side of the portal and everything, but all things being equal, you could approve a course for regulatory right now, at least conceptually under the interim guidance, right?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so it's not like we're waiting for guidance to approve courses. We're still waiting for functionality of the portal.
Right.
Correct.
And we haven't really talked about it, but it occurred to me too that I believe the way this would play out is any course under the interim guidance isn't undone when the final guidance is published. It's still approved. Now, 3 years later, when they go to take it again, it'll look a little different because they'll be taking courses approved under the final guidance. Okay, cool.
In the big picture, one thing that I think would be nice and needed is an actual policy that talks about the expectations of course approvals and some standardization. That's a big picture thing, not to be decided today. And then the things that we've been doing just programmatically is towards the middle of every single month, we're doing a second round check, 1-by-1 comparison to make sure every single certificate that's being issued is being verified, that payments are being made, not just trusting blindly technology. 1-to-1 comparisons are being made by two sets of human eyes, just to do a double round of check. And we're happy to answer any questions you might have.
You have something?
Mm-mm.
No. All right, any questions about contractor update?
I just wanted to give a real quick on the last page, and this is very quick, just a quick overview of the P&L of the program for the, since we took over March 1. Still, as of April 15th, $219,389 in the bank with the program. We did just pay last week, or yesterday, I guess it was, the invoice from Launch IT for $11,965, I believe it was, for the last section that they've completed. So there's still, I believe, one more to go on that, Nancy? Two more. Okay. So. So at this point, the program's still looking good, and we're not bringing in revenue from applications for exams, and we're doing minimal renewals other than what absolutely is needed. So we'll be in very good shape as we move forward. My personal goal, the last comment I've got for you guys is my personal goal is, after listening to our call yesterday with everybody involved, Raj with Launch IT claims that we will be starting our user acceptance training probably midweek next week. We'll do about a week of that and then a few fine-tuning touches. But my goal will be at this meeting next month, we will be telling you how the portal is working because it's up and running.
Great.
The commitment I'm going to try to make to you folks. We want this as bad as anybody, believe me. Yes, it's for the operators, but it'll make our job so much easier to have it up and running, and we want this as much as anybody. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, if there's no further questions, thanks for everything you've been doing. This is the rough patch here. We got to get through it, and then it's gonna be great. But we just got to get it up and going. All right, what's next on the agenda? Annette, do you have anything? I don't have anything. Nothing? Can't even make anything up?
You want me to?
Nah, that's all right. All right, if does any other board members on the phone have anything they want to add or discuss before we close out? Anyone in the audience? No? All right, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
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 Have a good afternoon.
All opposed? All right, we're adjourned. Thanks, everybody. See you next month.
where am I head?
Congratulations again.
Yeah, thanks.
Tomorrow
Tomorrow
at noon.
at noon.
What are you going to do at 1 p.m. tomorrow?
I'm hoping
Whatever he wants.
if it was nice enough, I'd be go golfing, but it ain't probably gonna be nice enough. Yeah. I just have some contract negotiations on Thursday, so. It's really rough. In the 49 years I've been doing, I've never had a contract of one.